In the heart of Winnipeg, Manitoba, runs the Red River, a historic waterway, often a symbol of life and connection, but one that holds a darker, more painful history for the city's Indigenous community. In August 2014, that river became the final resting place and the enduring symbol for a tragedy that shook Canada to its core. This is the story of Tina Michelle Fontaine. Born in 1999, Tina was just 15 years old, a First Nations girl whose life was already marked by profound loss and vulnerability. Her death became more than a local tragedy. It became the searing, undeniable proof of a systemic crisis in Canada. Her case is inextricably linked to the high number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, MMIWG. And her body's discovery sparked a national outrage, leading directly to the government's commitment to finally launch an independent national inquiry. Today, we explore Tina's life, her final, vulnerable days, the investigation that ended in a controversial acquittal, and the heavy legacy of her unsolved murder. As always, my name is Cody. I run this channel with my partner Katie. Welcome or welcome back to What's the Story? A reminder, if you do find today's video interesting and informative, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories told by yours truly. Now, grab a snack and a blanket, and let's dive in. Tina Fontaine was a member of the Sagkeeng First Nation, located about 121 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. Like many Indigenous youth, her early life was marked by heartbreak. Tina's father, Eugene Fontaine, was murdered in 2011 when Tina was just 12. This devastating loss fractured her life, leaving her grieving and struggling to cope. She was described by family as a bright, happy girl, known for her sense of humor and her natural compassion. But the trauma of her father's death led to severe emotional instability and put her at risk. By the time she was 15, Tina had entered the provincial child welfare system. She was officially taken into the care of Child and Family Services and was moved to Winnipeg, ostensibly for better support and resources. But the foster care system often failed her. Tina frequently ran away, seeking independence and often falling into the dangerous cycle of poverty and exploitation in the city's downtown core. This is a pattern tragically common among vulnerable Indigenous youth in major urban centers. Tina's situation in Winnipeg was precarious. She was a child lost in a sprawling, indifferent city without the cultural and familial supports she desperately needed. She was cycling through temporary placements and spending dangerous nights on the street. In the weeks before her disappearance, she was known to be in contact with people exploiting her vulnerability, a dark path that was leading her toward the point of no return. The final known timeline of Tina Fontaine's life begins in early August 2014. Tina was reported missing on August 9th by her guardians, a couple who lived in the city. However, she had actually been missing for several days prior to the official report. Police confirmed that in the days leading up to her death, Tina had been located by officers following an initial runaway report. She was taken to the hospital, but tragically, she left the hospital later that same day without being officially discharged or properly secured in a safe environment. She was once again back on the street. In the hours and days that followed, Tina was known to have been in the company of several adults, some of whom were involved in criminal activity. She was seeking shelter, food, and security, and instead encountered predators. The circumstances of her final moments are obscured by the lack of clear witnesses, but investigators believe that she had been spending time at a residence in the city's North End and was likely assaulted before her body was disposed of. Her family and friends desperately searched the streets, plastering Winnipeg with missing person posters, but the silence stretched until the search concluded in the most heartbreaking way possible. Tina Fontaine was last seen alive around August 10th. Her body was discovered a week later. On August 17, 2014, Tina Fontaine's body was recovered from the Red River. Her remains were found wrapped in a blanket and weighted down, a grim sign that whoever was responsible intended for her body never to be found. The act was one of deliberate concealment, confirming the nature of the crime as a planned, violent homicide. The discovery ignited a firestorm of grief and rage across Canada. For years, Indigenous leaders and activists had been demanding a national inquiry into MMIWG. Tina's case, a 15-year-old in provincial care dumped in a river, became the undeniable face of the crisis. The image of Tina's face, young, bright, and innocent, quickly became a national symbol of all the lives lost and all the failures of the Canadian system. Under intense public scrutiny, the Winnipeg Police Service launched a massive investigation. They worked to piece together her final hours, focusing on the network of associates she had encountered. In December 2015, over a year after her death, police charged Raymond Cormier, a Winnipeg man in his 50s, with second-degree murder. Cormier had known connections to the city's vulnerable population and had allegedly confessed his involvement to a police informant. The family and the nation breathed a collective sigh of relief. Justice, it seemed, was finally in sight. But the complexity of the evidence and the legal system would soon turn that relief into renewed heartbreak. The trial of Raymond Cormier began in late 2017. The Crown prosecutors faced immense pressure and significant challenges. The key challenge, the cause of death, could never be definitively established. Tina's body had been in the river for days, and the medical examiner could not confirm how she died, only that her death was deemed a homicide. Furthermore, the Crown's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of unreliable witnesses, primarily a police informant who claimed Cormier confessed to him. The defense strategy was simple and ultimately effective. They argued that the Crown could not prove when Tina died, how she died, or who was responsible for wrapping her body. They painted a picture of a desperate man, Cormier, who may have found the body and disposed of it out of panic, but who was not necessarily the killer. The defense successfully highlighted the lack of forensic evidence directly linking Cormier to Tina's death. There were no eyewitnesses, no physical evidence of the murder itself. In February 2018, the jury returned their verdict: not guilty. Raymond Cormier was acquitted on all counts. The reaction outside the courthouse was immediate and visceral. The verdict was met with tears, screams, and protests. For the Tucaro family and for the entire Indigenous community, it felt like a second killing. The system had failed Tina in life, and it had failed her in death. The acquittal of Raymond Cormier did not silence the issue, it amplified it. Tina Fontaine's name and the devastating failure of her case became the final, powerful argument needed to force political action. The case fueled years of intense activism under the banner of justice for Tina. The overwhelming public demand finally compelled the Government of Canada to formally launch the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The inquiry's mandate was to examine the systemic causes of violence against Indigenous women and girls, and Tina Fontaine's story of a vulnerable youth failed by the child welfare system and ultimately murdered was a cornerstone of that investigation. Though her case remains officially unsolved, her death had an undeniable, transformative impact on Canadian policy and public consciousness. Tina Fontaine was buried next to her family in the Sagkeeng First Nation, a heartbreaking homecoming for a girl who should have lived a full life. Her memory endures, not just as a victim of a crime, but as a powerful, undeniable force for change, an inspiration for a movement that continues to demand accountability and safety for all Indigenous women and girls in Canada.
Hey there! Before you take off, we'd just like to take a second and say that we really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. Katie and I are so grateful for the incredible Case Files community, so thank you for being a part of it. If you want to help the Case Files continue to grow, one of the easiest things you can do is leave a like on this video and consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell as well and select all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. We want you to know that we truly appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.